This is Masamune Makabe, a handsome, young man who lives with his sister, Chinatsa Hayes, and his mother, Kinyu Hayes. Masamune has a perfect body, so he is quite self-conscious about high-calorie foods. On his first day of high school, Masamune witnesses a man, Shigeo Yamada, being publicly humiliated and rejected, after publicly confessing his love for a cruel princess, Aki Adagaki. Masamune quickly befriends his class representative, Tei Futaba, and his best friend, Kojiro Shuri. When they are in the middle of their conversation, Aki walks into the class and looks at classmate, Akio Tanabe. Because no one has responded, Aki approaches Masamune and pulls his tie to answer her question. Akio abruptly raises his hand, and Aki reads aloud and tears up his love letter before rejecting him. Because Aki despises guys who ask her out and give her cruel nicknames, she is labeled as the cruel princess. Masamune recalls that Aki also rejected him when they were childhood friends. Thanks to Kojiro, Masamune learns more about Aki, who is rumored to eat alone, despite being surrounded by female friends. When Masamune can't find Aki, he follows Aki's maid, Yoshino Koiwai, to a gym storage room, where he discovers that Aki is prone to hypoglycemia and must eat in large quantities to satisfy her appetite. When Masamune looks at Aki's food, a spider appears, and he screams and runs into the storage room. Because Masamune knows her secret, so he promises to Aki that he won't reveal her secret. During volleyball practice, Kojiro mentions that there are rumors about Masamune and Aki being friends. In reality, Aki continues to be cruel to all boys, including Masamune. After school, while Yoshino runs to the store to get some bread for Aki, Aki runs into Akio, who is upset because his love letter was ripped off. As a result, Akio takes his scissors from his pocket and attempts to cut Aki's hair. Masamune appears out of nowhere and saves her from being cut, causing Akio to flee. Masamune's hand is bruised, but he is confident that her secret and being saved by him are the first steps in making her fall in love with him. In the past, when Masamune was a chubby boy, he was bullied and saved by Aki in front of her mansion's gate. Masamune confessed his love to Aki one day, but she rejected him and called him pig's foot. Ever since then, Masamune seeks revenge to win her heart before abandoning her, calling it the dead or love plan. Masamune meets Akio the next morning and forgives what happened the day before. When Masamune opens his shoe locker, an anonymous letter with the words pig's foot falls out. Masamune is concerned that Aki has discovered his past. Masamune has become very cautious around his classmates since then, fearing that if everyone knows about his past, he will be bullied again and unfriended. During lunchtime, a group of students races to the cafeteria to get some food. Yoshino appears unexpectedly, but she is unable to purchase it because it is too crowded. As a result, she requests that Masamune purchase 5 explosive croquette buns and 4 cutlet sandwiches. Because of Masamune's help, he asks Yoshino to let him accompany her to Aki, and she accepts it. When Yoshino returns to the storage and brings Aki's request, Yoshino leaves to buy some drinks for her. Masamune enters and discusses yesterday's accident, while also looking for information on the anonymous letter. Unfortunately, Aki doesn't write the letter, because she doesn't mention his previous nickname. After school, Masamune's leg is caught by traps set up by Yoshino. Masamune realizes Yoshino was present in his past, so Yoshino writes the letter. Yoshino releases him and explains that the Koiwai family has been the Adagaki family's attendants for 300 years. Yoshino even offers to assist Masamune in carrying out his revenge plan. Tei discovers that the school beautification committee has a vacancy, so Masamune volunteers to fill it. Masamune, however, is unable to approach Aki. Tei appears while Masamune is cleaning the classroom window and invites him on a movie date, which he kindly declines. Masamune is overjoyed, because he is now popular among women. Aki appears unexpectedly and compliments Masamune on his popularity. Masamune asks Aki on a date and exchanges email addresses after realizing his popularity. Aki agrees to his request and asks him to wait in the classroom after school because her phone is being repaired. The following week, Masamune waits in the classroom and discovers a clue letter revealing Aki's location. He searches for clues throughout the school, until he is returned to where he started. When Masamune looks out the window, he notices Aki open her scroll, and write that he has been rejected. Masamune is frustrated by Aki's rejection, but then Yoshino appears and tells Masamune that she will assist him in going on dates with Aki. Tei announces the next day that, if any of her classmates fail the proficiency test, they will all be required to attend supplementary classes for a month. Masamune decides to tutor Kojiro, because he performed poorly on his midterm exam. When Masamune is tutoring Kojiro in the library, they notice Aki nearby tutoring Yoshino. Masamune, who hasn't given up on Aki, bets with her on who will score higher, Masamune and Kojiro, or Aki and Yoshino. If Masamune wins, she is required to go on a date with him. If Masamune loses, Aki can put any nickname she wants on his back for the rest of his high school years. Aki accepts it, but she adds that Masamune's punishment is that he must pay for all of her food until she is satisfied. Masamune accepts it and is confident that he will win the bet. Yoshino warns Aki to study late at night because Masamune was the only student who received a perfect score on his transfer exam. Following the study, Masamune receives a phone call from Yoshino, who informs him that she will be unable to assist him with the wager. Masamune works really hard to tutor Kojiro in order for him to win the wager from Aki and Yoshino. On the day of the proficiency test, Yoshino gives Masamune a black iced coffee from the vending machine, while telling him that all of his studying is pointless. Masamune drinks the coffee and eats his mother's cooking, because he is confused with Yoshino. Masamune has a stomachache as the test begins, and he suspects Aki ordered Yoshino to lace the drink with laxatives. However, after the test, Masamune discovers that Aki was absent due to a fever, and his boxed lunch caused a stomachache. When Masamune attends the supplementary class, Aki joins him, and they end up being the only students in the class. Masamune later meets Aki for a date at the train station, thanks to Yoshino's assistance. Masamune is surprised that Aki is cosplaying as a magical girl, as she believes this is the first date dress code. Masamune calls Yoshino after seeing Aki's outfit, but she asks him to follow her plan, because Aki believes in her. Masamune and Aki are watching a horror film in a theater, with one empty seat between them. Surprisingly, Aki is scared of the film. A young girl asks Aki about her cosplay costume while they are eating at a restaurant, but she explains that this is part of the first date ritual. Because so many people are staring at Aki, Masamune quickly grabs her and exits the restaurant. Masamune then informs Aki that the first date dress code doesn't exist, so Aki goes shopping at a clothing store. Because of her shyness, Aki screams as she changes her clothes in a dressing room. Masamune accidentally enters and sees Aki in her underwear, so Aki knocks him out and Masamune passes out. When Masamune awakens from Aki's lap on a park bench, she walks away, after apologizing for startling her. Following a successful date, Yoshino contacts Masamune and informs him that she has agreed to assist him with the revenge plan in order to humble Aki. Masamune reads Rosite Steroid, a shoujo manga featuring the characters Eiji and Momo, to gather ideas for his revenge plan. So, the following day, in supplementary class, Masamune successfully makes Aki blush by staring at her, while she is writing down what her teacher has taught her. It suddenly begins to rain after school, and Aki has forgotten to bring an umbrella. Masamune unexpectedly appears, offers her an umbrella, and flees. Yoshino later tells Masamune to stop being creepy toward Aki, because his plan isn't working. As a result, Yoshino advises him to be a cold person. So the next day, when Masamune sees Aki at the stairs, he begins to ignore her, despite the fact that she tries to return his umbrella. When they meet at the supplementary class, Masamune simply walks past Aki in her seat and sits with his group of friends. Masamune doesn't say goodbye to Aki when the class is over. Until one day, when Makabe is going back home, Aki runs into him and scolds him in the hallway. Since Masamune continues to be a cold person, he tries to flee, but Aki throws his umbrella at his head and blocks his path. Masamune tries to flee, but Aki won't let him. When Masamune successfully passes her and flees, Aki manages to pull his tie and cause him to fall. Aki confronts him about why she has been completely ignored by him. Noticing that Aki's shyness, Masamune shocks and holds his feeling for her. So, Masamune admits that he ignored her on purpose because he likes her, and he flees after saying that he likes everything about her. So, the next day, Masamune tries to write a love letter for Aki, but she throws it away right in front of him. Aki accuses Masamune of being a selfish man and flees. Yoshino appears unexpectedly and assures Masamune that she will handle the situation. Aki runs away to a playground, recalling Masamune and Yoshino together in the schoolyard. Yoshino discovers Aki at the playground and clears up the misunderstanding by explaining that Masamune simply needed some advice, especially since Yoshino is aware that Aki likes Masamune back. Yoshino abruptly disappears, leaving Aki to return home alone. Because Aki's mind is focused on Masamune, Masamune informs her that a car is approaching her. Masamune, fortunately, successfully rescues her from the crash. Masamune is so angry at Aki that she is unconcerned about her safety. They both fall in love with each other all of a sudden. Suddenly, a pretty girl wearing a rosary steps out of the car and immediately hugs Masamune. The girl believes that a chance meeting with Masamune has answered her prayers. Masamune doesn't recognize her and tries to recall who she is. Her bodyguard, Shido, abruptly informs her that they are running late. So, she gets into her car and drives away without saying goodbye. After witnessing everything, Aki walks away in a huff. The next day at school, Masamune brings Aki's favorite foods, but he is suddenly shot repeatedly with an air gun by Yoshino. Masamune explains what happened yesterday and tells her he doesn't know how she is. As a result, Yoshino flees, and Masamune continues to deliver food outside the storage closet without encountering Aki. While Masamune is attempting to identify the girl, his teacher unexpectedly introduces a new transfer student in his class, Nico Fujinomiya. When Masamune approaches her, Tae informs him that Nico transferred to his school purely because of him. Nico reveals that Masamune offered his coat to her 3 years ago during Christmas, when she was looking for a donation. Masamune realizes, however, that she wasn't referring to him because he was still chubby 3 years ago. Masamune grabs her hand and pulls her outside. He questions her about why she made up a lie, despite her claim that the truth is embarrassing. Masamune admits to having an unrequited love for someone else, and takes Nico to see Aki in her class, hoping that Nico will be self-conscious about Aki's beauty. A gust of wind enters the classroom when a boy opens the window, blowing Nico's skirt. Masamune and Aki notice that Nico mysteriously doesn't wear pants. When Aki notices Masamune blushing, she walks out of the classroom, but Masamune tries to stop her and explain everything. Because Aki refuses to listen to Masamune, she accidentally punches her teacher in the face. As punishment, Masamune and Aki are forced to clean the swimming pool. When Aki is busy cleaning the pool, Masamune uses a hose to spray water on Aki. Then, out of nowhere, Aki appears carrying a bucket of water to make amends for his actions. Unfortunately, Aki trips and falls into the swimming pool, drowning. Masamune quickly dives in and tries to save her, but the swimming pool turns out to be quite shallow. Masamune saved Aki, despite his desire to avoid getting wet. He acknowledges that his body moved on its own and that he likes her. As a result, Aki requests that Masamune demonstrate his love for her by kissing her. Masamune is surprised to learn that kissing is the final step in his dead or love plan, and it has the potential to destroy everything. Aki wants to leave because she knows Masamune can't do it. Masamune grabs her hand and tries to kiss her while imagining her as a ham. Aki isn't prepared for Masamune's plan, so she punches him right away. When the swim team, including Tae, arrives for swimming practice, Aki abandons Masamune in the pool. When Masamune is drying off in the schoolyard, Nico appears beside him and offers hot tea containing hydrating vitamins and minerals. Masamune abruptly asks her what she likes about him, knowing that Nico knows nothing about him other than his handsome face. Nico responds that he is incredibly modest, which is an unexpected response from her. When Nico walks back home, Yoshino follows her until Shido captures her and misjudges her as Nico's enemy. Nico informs Shido that Yoshino is Aki's attendant. When Masamune returns home, he surprises Yoshino and Nico by helping in the preparation of fried shrimp in his kitchen. As a result, Yoshino is summoned to Masamune's room to explain why they are both in his home. It turns out that his mother has invited her to his home. When Nico finds the two, she informs them that Chinatsu has just returned home and that the fried shrimp is ready. Masamune prevents Chinatsu from revealing his fear of high-calorie foods at the dinner table. When her mother chastises them for not enjoying the food, Masamune complains about the high calories, and Nico about the low nutrients. Chinatsu lights fireworks after eating. Yoshino tells Masamune about a time when Aki hooked her up to a bunch of fireworks to simulate a rocket launch, despite the fact that Yoshino was blind and deaf for a week. Meanwhile, Nico is having a good time with Masamune's family, but Masamune assumes that if he doesn't meet Aki before, he may end up with her. When Shido drives Nico back to her house, Nico successfully steals Masamune's childhood photo of Masamune and Aki. Meanwhile, Masamune walks Yoshino to the main road, telling him not to fall in love with Nico. Masamune plans his next move to get closer to Aki, convincing her to invite him to her summer villa on Tsunade Island as summer vacation begins. Aki initially rejects Masamune and invites only Kojiro, but he refuses to go without Masamune. Nico and Tei suddenly want to join. Aki is forced to accept it, because she doesn't want to spend her summer alone. Yoshino tells Masamune on the yacht that she hasn't figured out why Nico is chasing him until now. Yoshino threatens Masamune that, if he doesn't make Aki fall in love with him by the end of the trip, she will reveal the entire story up to this point. Midori Yusaki, the Adagaki family secretary, welcomes Masamune, Aki, Yoshino, Nico, Tei, and Kojiro to the summer villa on Tsunade Island. When Yusaki is confused by the presence of a man in the girls' group, Masamune boldly declares that he is dating Aki, convincing Yusaki. So, Aki takes Masamune to her room and tells him that for the duration of the trip, they will pretend to date. When Masamune arrives at the beach, Nico grabs his hand and requests that he apply sunscreen to her back. Masamune declines her offer, but she refuses to let go of his hand. Aki immediately takes action and tells Nico to stop her cheap flirting, because Masamune is her boyfriend. When Aki takes Masamune to an isolated area of the beach, she orders him to bring her back some lunch. Masamune, as her boyfriend, cannot refuse her request, so he goes to the kitchen to get a boxed lunch from Yusaki. Yusaki unexpectedly suggests that Masamune visit a haunted mansion, despite the fact that she secretly envies Masamune for dating Aki. Yusaki had previously witnessed a young Aki rejecting all the boys, after being abandoned by the chubby Masamune. Masamune, Aki, Yoshino, Nico, Tei, and Kojiro arrive at the haunted mansion in the middle of the night. To determine who goes first, they all use a sequence number. Yoshino, Kojiro, Tei, Aki, Masamune, and Nico will be in that order. Yusaki initially intends to cosplay as Ghostface in the haunted mansion, in order to scare Masamune. On the other hand, Yoshino cosplays as Jason Voorhees, and scares Yusaki, who flees away. Yoshino keeps chasing Yusaki with her chainsaw, which also scares Aki, Tei, and Kojiro in the process. Yusaki flees outside the mansion, and comes across a bloodied Nico, causing her to collide with a pole and lose consciousness. Masamune carries Yusaki on his back when she awakens. She realizes that Masamune is a good and lovely boyfriend for Aki. On the yacht the next morning, Yoshino admires Masamune's risky strategy. Fortunately, Yoshino says she won't say anything to Aki, but she says she won't help Masamune if he isn't self-motivated. After his nightly workout routine, Masamune is obsessed with his muscular body. Aki suddenly contacts him. Masamune then informs Yoshino that Aki wishes to meet in person to return a bag he left at the summer villa. Because Yoshino doesn't respond well, Masamune begins to study and opens his drawer. He notices that his childhood photo of himself and Aki has vanished, and he is convinced that Nico stole it. The next day, Aki returns the bag to Masamune at lunchtime. While Aki discusses their recent summer vacation, Masamune wonders why Nico stole his childhood photo. Aki leaves him right away, because she ignores Aki's conversation. Suddenly, Nico contacts Masamune and invites him to a water park with Tei. But before that, Masamune asks her to meet him, so Nico invites him to her apartment. When Masamune arrives at Nico's apartment, Nico prepares hot tea for him, while he excuses himself to the bathroom. When he goes to the toilet, he peeks into her bedroom, which is stuffed with vitamins and shoujo manga. When Masamune reads his favorite manga, Nico soon finds him. Masamune realizes she snooped into his room after she admits she became interested in Roside Steroid because of him. Nico is absolutely sure that Masamune is looking for a childhood photo of himself with Aki, and she admits that she likes him just the way he is. So, Nico unexpectedly kisses Masamune, saying that health is more important than appearance. Masamune reveals that he had a snobbish attitude when he was chubby, as he considers that appearance is only one aspect of a person. Masamune also tells Nico that he can't be with her because she doesn't truly love him and that his heart belongs to Aki. So, Masamune exits the room, carrying his childhood photograph with him. After hearing Masamune's words, Nico is heartbroken when he leaves. Masamune meets Aki, Yoshino, Tei, and Kojiro at the water park's front gate the next morning. Nico, who has also been invited by Tei, decides to cancel because she is sick. Masamune doesn't seem happy and thinks a lot, while everyone else is having fun at the water park. Later, as they all return home, Shido rushes to inform the others that Nico has fled the apartment since the morning. To make matters worse, Nico doesn't bring her pills with her, because she is actually an anticonvulsant, and she maintains a cheerful demeanor to conceal her fragile condition. Because Shido is aware that Masamune previously visited Nico's apartment, Masamune admits that he rejected Nico and chose Aki instead. Aki ignores Masamune's confession and is more concerned about Nico's disappearance. Shido informs everyone that Nico left her cell phone and wallet at the apartment. Shido drives Aki, Yoshino, Tei, and Kojiro as they consider where Nico would go, leaving Masamune outside the water park. They abruptly decide to disperse throughout the town in search of Nico. Masamune tries to think that since no one can find her, the last place she will go is school. Surprisingly, Aki also arrives, which surprises Masamune, because they both end up in the same place. Even though Aki dislikes her, she admits that being rejected is a painful experience. Masamune talks to Aki about the nickname Pig's Foot, but plenty of love letters in the form of paper planes fall from the sky. Masamune flees, realizing that Nico is imitating the Roside Steroid scene, in which she is also rejected by her boyfriend. Nico collapses in Masamune's arms as soon as he arrives on the school rooftop. Masamune asks Aki to contact Shido, and he notices the letter with the words "I love you." When they all arrive at the hospital, Masamune wonders if rejecting Nico was worth it, given that he also has to carry out his revenge plan on Aki. Suddenly, Aki approaches Masamune and informs him that Nico has called him into the hospital room, where she begins talking about the past. It is shown that Nico was invited to a birthday party by 3 girls, but her condition was brought up when they mentioned tennis. Nico's grandfather advised her to have surgery, even though it would not cure her condition. She wanted the chance to fall in love, so she decided to pursue Masamune. Nico enjoys the thrill of falling in love, mentioning that she and Masamune are very similar. Apart from feeling unrequited love for herself, she is glad that Masamune will not follow in her footsteps. When Masamune returns to the hospital lobby, Aki calls him, but he walks past Aki on his way out. When Shido informs Nico that all of her friends have left the hospital, she takes out her childhood photo. Surprisingly, she met Masamune and took a photo with him. While heading home, Masamune worries that he will follow in the footsteps of unrequited love, but he is still determined to carry out his revenge plan. Outside her mansion, Aki recalls her hospital room conversation with Nico, in which Nico questioned Aki about her persistence in doubting Masamune's love. Aki thinks Masamune was very attractive when he was chubby. Aki is suddenly approached by a boy who resembles a chubby Masamune. Yoshino's father is shocked when he learns from a letter that the boy, introduced as Kanetsugu Gasso, is engaged to be married to Aki. The next day, Kikuni Kiba, Sanoka Kaneko, and Mari Mizuno are surprised to see Aki softening around Kanetsugu as the two walks to class. Meanwhile, Masamune is surprised that Nico has returned to school after recovering from surgery in the previous month, and Nico realizes that Masamune hasn't made any progress with his revenge plan. When Masamune visits Aki after class, Kanetsugu introduces himself as a new transfer student in her class, and engages with Aki. Masamune is blown away by the news. So, Masamune leads Yoshino to the storage closet, where she confirms that Aki and Kanetsugu will start sharing the mansion. Masamune has noticed that Kanetsugu is an exceptional soccer player, is very academically smart, and prefers to sit next to Aki during lunch. The next day at school, Tae proposes a play for the Yasaka Festival with her Class 2B, in which Kojiro and Masamune will play Snow White and Prince Charming. When Masamune sees Aki after class, he corners her against a wall in the hallway, but he is speechless, causing Aki to walk back to Kanetsugu. Seeing Masamune wall slam Aki, Kikuni, Sonoka, and Mari commit to protecting her from Masamune, recalling their conversation with Kanetsugu at the fast food restaurant, which revealed that Kanetsugu doesn't intend to kiss Aki, despite the fact that he is engaged to her. Sonoka uses her position as vice president of the student council to deny approval for Class 2B's proposal to produce the play. As a result, the student council informs Class 2B that their proposal has been rejected because Class 2A had the same proposal for Aki and Kanetsugu. Masamune proposes a promotional competition for a poll between both plays to resolve this issue. Both classes agree, but Masamune adds another competition with Kanetsugu, the winner of which gets to dance with Aki at the after-party. Tae, the play's director, is rude to Kojiro during a dress rehearsal in the school gymnasium. Kojiro runs out into the hallway, and runs into Nico, who is carrying her costume to the school gymnasium. Masamune meets Kanetsugu in the schoolyard, while looking for Kojiro, talking trash about how romantic his relationship with Aki is. When Aki and Kanetsugu walk home from school together, Aki runs to the food trucks. Kanetsugu recalls how his poor parents wished for him to marry a wealthy woman. He will take advantage of his resemblance to Masamune's past. Meanwhile, Masamune gets cold at home after working out in his underwear. On the day of the Yasaka Festival, Sonoka hosts a play promotion competition. Nico brings Masamune to the school infirmary, because she knows he will get a fever, and she instinctively knows he is sick and tucks him into bed. She walks away to get some warm drinks, after saying she wouldn't mind dancing with him at the after-party. By the time Nico finishes buying some drinks and returns with Kojiro, Masamune has gone from his bed. Tae is informed by both of them that Masamune has gone missing. Kikuni has successfully kidnapped Masamune and wrapped him in blankets. Kikuni has been given the task of holding Masamune hostage until Aki and Kanetsugu finish dancing at the after-party. Meanwhile, Aki discovers that Kanetsugu has also gone missing. When Kanetsugu was looking for a place to change his clothes, Yoshino, who had previously disguised herself as the evil queen, locked him in the gym storage. Because Kikuni claims to be Aki's bodyguard, Masamune accuses her of being a coward who unfairly captures Masamune and allows Kanetsugu to win by default. Kikuni recognizes this and releases Masamune. Mari requests that Masamune release Kanetsugu as a hostage, but he realizes it must be his master's game. So, Masamune pretends he doesn't know anything and hangs up the phone. As Class 2A begins to perform, Aki unexpectedly informs Mari that the show must go on without Kanetsugu. After receiving a message from Mari telling her to leave Masamune and find Kanetsugu, Kikuni realizes she is being trapped by Masamune and chases him out the window, but she falls into the fountain below, while he hangs onto the ledge. Soon after, Tae and Kojiro inform Masamune that Aki is still performing without Kanetsugu. Masamune is shocked and runs back into the school gymnasium. When Masamune arrives at the school gymnasium, he admits that the Class 2A play is more professional and different than his class's rehearsal, despite the fact that they don't have Kanetsugu as the prince. To prevent Aki from humiliating herself as Snow White, Masamune ignores Mari's objections and volunteers to be Prince Charming. Meanwhile, during the scene in which Snow White eats the poison apple and dies in a coffin surrounded by the 7 dwarfs, Aki realizes that their class is unable to locate Kanetsugu, but she believes that the story is realistic, similar to her previous love story, in which she waited for her prince to arrive, but nothing came. Masamune, as her Prince Charming, appears on stage unexpectedly. Despite having a fever, Masamune collapses unexpectedly, leaving the audience shocked. Masamune immediately stands up to avoid ruining the act, but he is unable to walk, due to his high fever. Yoshino, disguised as one of the dwarves, suddenly pushes the prince into Snow White's coffin. When the prince arrives, he lifts Snow White's head, and kisses her in front of the audience, but she punches him in humiliation, as the play concludes. During the after-party, students from classes 2A and 2B decide to have a karaoke battle, as a competition tiebreaker. Each class member chooses a song, and performs it, in front of the class. Except for Masamune, they all get high marks. Despite burning 15 calories, Masamune receives the lowest score, when it is his turn to sing. Masamune and Aki then sit on a park bench, waiting for Yoshino to return from shopping. They talk about how Masamune recklessly intervened during her play. Aki unexpectedly thanks Masamune by returning the favor. Masamune requests that she kiss him, and she agrees. As they begin to kiss, Masamune closes his eyes. Unfortunately, he is served a sweet baked potato, just as Yoshino arrives. When Aki and Yoshino leave, Masamune plans his revenge, during a class trip to Paris. That's a wrap. Thank you for watching.